Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Bull. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Wolves Fancast. It feels like a defeat, but it really isn't. Here to join me to break down today's draw against Newcastle, we've got Matt, we've got Stu, we've got Pricey. I dread to ask it, guys, but how we all feel on this Sunday evening?
Pensive.
Broken down.
I'm fine.
You just said breakdown.
Oh, well, we're going to get right into the thick of it because I don't know about you guys, but that's ruined me bank holiday a bit. And it shouldn't do because it's a draw, but there's bigger picture stuff, there's smaller picture stuff. As always, we're part of the 90-Min Football network as well. Kind of don't know where to start, to be honest, but I was filled with so much optimism at 1 o'clock today. Not just because I had a really nice Sunday roast, but the starting lineup. Full debut for Nunes in the league, thought was great. Starting lineup wise, fantastic. That's like the strongest lineup I've seen Wolves genuine on paper for ever. Is that too much to say, do you think, gents?
I was just pleased that Ait-Nouri wasn't in that squad because I had, not in the 11 because I had dreams of Trippier kind of getting the better of him on the opposite side and us constantly having to battle the ball coming in over the top and him having to defend it. So seeing, Johnny and Semedo as your fullbacks is as good as it could possibly have got, really, I think, from a lineup point of view.
Yeah, I think Semedo being back from the start as well it just makes a huge difference because he's such a quality player, and obviously we'll get into him. I mean, I thought he was absolutely immense today anyway, but he looked fit and well on against Derby against Preston, so there was no real reason why he wouldn't start this game, but you never know, do you, with Bruno? So that was the main point for me, just seeing Semedo back and seeing, in theory, this system is made for him. But there we are.
I think the issue was just making sure that, I think the only spot up for contention was Ait-Nouri's, because if we're honest, he's had made a few errors this season, hasn't he, in the first couple of games. And we all said that Semedo when fit, should be starting. So therefore, Johnny, who's always normally 7 out of 10, should then just switch over to the side. So for me, that was the only really position that was up for contention. So when the lineup was announced, I was well happy. I thought, that's pretty much probably our strongest 11, maybe you would say. So I was quite happy with it.
At what point did your optimism? Because I felt the same. I was like, man, this is the team, guys. You can see that midfield free working. You can see how you can have different variations, I guess, during the game. That Nunes might be able to push on a bit further if we need someone a bit deeper. I could see it all working, but it sort of didn't. And I've been trying to rattle my brains for the last 4 hours about why it didn't, because despite having more, three in midfield, 3 high quality midfielders, despite one of our midfielders having, frankly, a 9 out of 10 performance in Ruben Neves, we still struggle to control the game, particularly in the first half. Matt, what did you sort of think of, I guess, the opening stages of the game?
Well, I thought that we had a lot of joy on the wings. I think we we were open, got quite a lot of space to run in behind and stuff like that. But it just goes to that age-old problem where a final ball, final delivery, and a lethal striker in the box. Yeah. It just seems like the age-old stories. We could pluck a piece of audio from any podcast for the last 14 weeks of this show, and it'd be absolutely apparent no matter who we've played, what style and what the scoreline was. It's the same problems week in and week out, regardless of personnel. And you've got to then look at the tactics and other forces in play other than sometimes the players on the pitch, I think. Let's get that ball rolling. Come on.
I think 14 weeks has been a bit generous. You could go back 2.5 years. You can go back to Project Restart for when it all went shit. It hasn't changed since then, despite being two different managers. We're still as blunt as Emily. It's terrible. And nothing changes regardless of who's in charge, who's playing on the pitch. It's always shit. And in a weird way, I kind of enjoyed the first 20, 25 minutes. I thought it was a really good open game with both teams going at it. And I thought, all right, and at least this is better than what it could have been, considering Newcastle be without their best player as well. It's just, oh dear. Yeah, I think that was you're trying to think. Let's not just kill everyone off already, but I mean, lost for words. Really, that halfway through the first half is the answer, Rich. And can I just say that T-shirt that you are wearing is very. It was the same T-shirt that Nathan Drake wore in the demo of Uncharted 1 or E3. There you go.
For all the audio, I was going to say for all the audio listeners, I'm wearing I guess, short sleeve baseball T-shirt. Would you call it, Stu?
Yeah, with the raglan maroon
yeah,
sleeves.
Yeah, raglan. Yeah, that's more. Yeah.
For the fashionistas there.
Yeah. I was going to say, make sure if you are listening to it on podcast format, do make sure to check out us on YouTube, and you can see what we're all wearing. So, then feel free to leave in comments. Somebody.
We need to make any extra money that we can.
Any way to drive clicks. That's all I'm going to say. And then head over to the only Fancast page for when I'm not wearing those clothes. Yeah, halfway through the first half, I think it's a good summation of, because it was a bit end to end, and there were points where you say, like, on the break, we looked tidy. We had that glorious Neves pass, which kind of set the mood and the tone for his performance. But then, I wouldn't say sort of blushes were spared or anything, but that Neves strike before half-time was very much what the doctor ordered, but did it also paper over cracks a bit as well?
Massively. And I mean, I went down at half-time being quite annoyed, and everyone was as everyone normally is with going into the break leading. We hadn't done anything apart from that Neves wonder ball, and then the decent bowling by Geddes. That was it. That was all the creativity from the whole half. Again, against a team like that, and we got massively got out of jail by a wonder strike, which is what once every 5-6 times a year if we're lucky. But the same old problem was there, so it massively papered over the cracks.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at. I was. By the way, I took this game in from my new vantage point from the family enclosure since I have switched from the Safe Bank into the family enclosure. So I have a new view on proceedings now. It's all low tier side on, and for what I saw, I know Neves. I might be a bit controversial here, by the way, but I know Neves scored his goal and whatever, but I don't know. What I saw from him today, I saw quite a lot of ambitious passes that never came off this game. I thought he did have quite trying to play quite a few sort of in the FIFA terms, L1 and I guess triangle through ball passes. A lot of them didn't seem to come off, and I just thought the game in general was there's not a lot going on. It's two quite low quality teams, really. If I'm honest, I mean Newcastle, yes, they've got the wealth, but when you look at the team, right, apart from I think Botman was their only summer signing that started in the team today. Correct. I mean, I'm willing to be corrected on that, but Dean knows. But I don't know. I just thought it was a bit low in quality, like the first half and the game in general. And I don't know. I just thought we were quite fortunate to go in at half time to be 1-up because when you look at it, did we carve open Newcastle much really? Given what we had on the pitch, not really. I thought we were a bit low on quality again. Going in on the break with what was essentially a Neves wonder strike, brilliant. But I thought on the whole, given what we've got on the pitch, I just thought we were a bit low on quality today. Well, low on creativity, should I say, first half.
Yeah, I think I agree with you to a degree. I wouldn't quite say low on quality overall. I think both teams struggled that they don't they were without Wilson, so they lacked that additional goal threat. Wolves just don't have a goal threat, and it kind of meant that both teams could get up and down the pitch, and look threatening at points. But as soon as it came into the final third, I was never really stressing. Particularly in the first half, and up until about, well, to be honest, the 80th minute, 90th minute, about them scoring, because I had trust in Sarr. The defense looked solid enough. I know that Colin seems to have divided opinions a lot between fans today. I think he did fine. I don't think he was
baffled.
Amazing. He got caught out that one time, but apart from that, I just thought he was solid, but again defensively, what one person who deserves a mention is Nelson Semedo, who, good grief, he put in a shift today.
He did. I mean, there was one moment in time when let's call a spade. He gave away a needless yellow. At that point, I thought, well, we're in bang trouble now because Saint-Maximin's going to just absolutely have him on toast, give him every opportunity for a foul and a second yellow and sending off. But even then, he was just immense. He was just everywhere he needed to be, a marshalling performance, and what felt like where we've been exposed so many times over the last, like Stu says, 18 months. It felt like a safe pair of hands with him at least on that pitch, because he was just everywhere he needed to be, made crunching tackles when other defenders wouldn't have. He was a joy to watch today, and I think everybody can appreciate and eat a bit of humble pie for what they've said about Semedo over the last couple of years of his tenure here.
Yeah, there was that one. There's a couple of runs in the second half as well where you could see he thought, well, if you lot of wasters are not going to do anything, I'll do it all on my own. Then and he took it upon himself to run with the ball, which we haven't had from a fullback with Johnny there, because that's not his game. And it just opened some. And even though he drew the foul and we had a free kick on the halfway line, he still opened the team up. And it's just, again, something different. If we had that, and if Ait Nouri hadn't been completely awful from a defensive point of view so far this season, but that's the kind of thing that we thought we were going to get last year from the Bruno live system that he had at Benfica. And we've got half of the team that can do that now. But yeah, I thought even that little 5-minute spell in the second half where he switched with Johnny and he was playing left back for whatever reason that happened. How that happened, I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought, well, that must be because of the yellow that he's on with Saint-Maximin, and they don't want to take him off for Ait Nouri yet. But then they switched back again, and it was odd. But I think it says it all about how well the defense as a whole played, because he took our nemesis off, and Chris Wood really didn't do anything for a change, maybe because Cody wasn't there for him to bully this time. But he took him off, and then they put Saint-Maximin through the middle. You think, well, you're changing your entire game plan and your way of playing because you've got it's a you shall not pass moment. and we haven't had that defensive solidity for a long time. So from defense, like you said, Rhys, that part of the team, no fault at all. Can't complain whatsoever. I thought they were great defensively.
Yeah. I was going to say the other thing to mention in the first half was a shame was the potential for a Núñez goal from. I must say, great work from Jimenez. Just we'll talk about Bruno in a bit. Don't worry, guys. But saying afterwards about how we pressed them, and I think it was kind of the only time I really noticed it was at that point that we really restricted Trippier from doing anything. Of course, is far greater than Nelson Semedo. If you listen to Gabby Bonlahor, but and then Jimenez great strength, and what a ball to pick him out, and it was a shame because I think Núñez overall, I think he had a very 6 out of 10 game, and that I wasn't necessarily expecting him to set the world alight on his first couple of starts. And he showed glimpses, and I think that was a really important one. And you sort of hope that in 5-6 games' time, we're scoring those chances rather than him just not quite being there overall. But I think great opportunity.
If Dendoncker had played like Núñez today, he would have been lynched. And I don't think that's a sensationalist comment. I just think everything that we criticised Dendoncker for, especially me, for his finishing and that he gets in them positions but doesn't take it, that's exactly what Núñez did today. And we didn't see any of the kind of the dribbling with the ball really that we expected from him. And it's going to take him time, of course it is, because he's coming from a below par league in terms of the Premier League, and you could see, especially towards the end as well, where he had the chance to put a ball through at the end, and after actually beating a couple of blokes, and he was just absolutely fucked. And he should have been took off about 5 minutes earlier, but we've got no options on the bench to bring on for him.
Yeah, I think him and Guedes suffered similar in that manner. That I was comparing Guedes to like Trincao, and he's definitely that step beyond Trincao in my opinion in terms of he gets the game a bit more, but you can see he's just that bit more of a mature player. He's played a few more seasons, but he still needs that extra bit of time, as many players do. But clearly he's not fully up to speed yet in this team, in this country. But we kind of need it to click a lot quicker, as Tom Green says in the viewpoints. Bruno saying it will take the team to click by mid-November, which we kind of need it to be, needed to have clicked in mid-August, to be honest, when the season starts, personally. But
mid-November is when the World Cup starts. So
yeah, we'll ship them out at that point. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Second half, guys. So this was I was going to say, it was my mic decides to bounce all the way back to, from Shifnal to Wednesbury to Finchfield and back again. Second half, I felt was quite interesting because we actually had key moments happening. Let's start with the Shah being saved by VAR. In real time, gents, what did you think?
I didn't. I'll be honest. I haven't seen the replay. I've only seen that image. At the time, I thought it was just a late tackle. So I'm just going on what I saw in real time for now. We've seen this kind of thing where it looks sensationally bad on a still image. But if he's got in there with any kind of force, then he's got to go. Simple as. If not, then fine. Because we've seen that in the opening weeks of the Premier League already, that just because it's a high tackle doesn't necessarily mean this season that it's a red card. But he didn't seem excessive force at the time.
With the issue is, though, we're one planted foot away from a broken leg there, and it shouldn't have to take a planted foot and a broken leg for it to be realised that it's dangerous. It shouldn't have to take the injury of the other player for it to be deemed dangerous, I don't think. Do you know what I mean? It could have been a lot worse, and it was only by sheer dumb luck that it wasn't. And I don't think then that should then get somebody off the hook for what is a dangerous tackle.
Yeah, I think as Tim Green says in the comments, why didn't VAR ask a ref to check the monitor?
Yeah, well, that's again, that's down to the VAR telling the ref to go and talk to the, go and watch it for himself. That's not, we can't blame the ref for that. That's just one of them things, eh? And it's another fault in the matrix, fault in the system that these people are inept at the job.
Yeah, it's one of those really. I mean, there was a few decisions like this, and believe it or not, I think these things kind of even themselves out over the game. To be honest, there was contentious decision after contentious decision, and it had all the elements on the pitch for it to get ugly, really. And it didn't. The players kind of kept their heads with everything that was going on. So it was interesting that it didn't go down that route as it so often can with football. But I mean, what did you think, Price, when you saw it? What was your views on the potential?
Yeah, I think we saw with like the was it Milner in the last game who like had the challenge? Who was in the previous game and had like a high tackle, which was a yellow, then looked at for a red potentially on VAR, but then was rescinded. I think a high tackle potentially could be a red, as you know, as is normally what we look for. But as you said, it depends on the force in the tackle, and I don't know. You can't keep looking at the still images for a view on this, because as we know, still images you can't bet the house on that because they don't tell the story, do they? So from what I saw, it didn't seem that bad a tackle. The ref has obviously gone and had a look, and VAR's had a look and deemed it as a yellow as such. So I don't know. I'm comfortable with it being a yellow as such, but from that point on, if I'm honest, and keen to get your guys' thoughts on this, but I just felt that like we just kind of lost control. Well, we were steadily losing control of the game from this point on. I mean, I know Bruno has said afterwards that we deserved to win, but when you look at the actual stats when it comes to the game, you guys can obviously say as much as me, but I don't think we're anywhere near where we when it comes to controlling the game. I think Newcastle had 2/3 possession, didn't they?
I mean, we're a 75-minute team at absolute best, and like I tweeted out earlier, if we're not 2-0 up, going into 3-0 up, we're not going to see a game out because we just don't have the energy and the engine to see a game out like that. And it's just, you could feel it. You could just feel the atmosphere or lack of coming from, you know, from the Wolves home fans. And it just, the ever glooming smell of inevitability was wafting through the air. Do you know what I mean? It was just, you could just feel that it was going to happen. It shouldn't be a surprise to us, unfortunately, because they just looked fucked out there after like 60, 70 minutes.
Look, I was going to say, gents, did you get your hopes up, though, when Jimenez pulled out his telescope? And I don't mean that's euphemism.
I only saw that about 10 minutes ago, so no is the answer.
I haven't done that yet, actually, to be fair.
I was going to say, in the days of VAR, can we really? I don't think Jimenez should be pulling out these elaborate goal celebrations.
Not when
just because there's always a chance it's going to be pulled back.
Well, that one was so blatant though as well. I mean, it's not like it's one of them where it randomly flicks off your shoulder blade or something. It was a blatant foul. I mean, I didn't even move. I mean, it was right in front of me. So I just like you do a bit of like an ironic cheer when like they put the ball in the net from when the play's dead on that kind of thing. Thinking, well, there's no way that's going to be allowed, surely. And the fact that it was so quick as well, the decision, it wasn't like standing there 4 or 5 minutes watching replay after replay. He went to the screen. We know what happens when he does that anyway. It was a foul.
But so Stu, you're on obviously the Steve Bull upper as well. It must have looked like from where you were that the ref pointed to the centre spot as well.
because I know where you sit, I know what I know how.
Mate,
that
I was
could be.
livid. I started like giving it everything, and I was like, "What the hell? What is this?"
Yeah, because half the stand your side did, like South Bank side did, and then all the ones our side, because we were directly behind him, where he was pointing at the play, he was like pointing at the thing rather than like that. For the audio listeners, hand movements. But yeah, I can see exactly what that meant. It was a very odd kind of. I don't know why he didn't like point that way, did he? He didn't point towards the goal, as in it's a free kick. He pointed towards where the incident happened, which was just before, like further back from where he was, from the centre spot. It was a very weird way of going about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was going to say VAR, I think, was arguably right in both occasions. To be fair, as it annoyingly is most of the time. Even it's frustrating, but the game management, it never felt, as you alluded to, Matt, there was just an air of inevitability. We're going to concede at some point. Despite how well we were doing defensively, it just felt like it would get past, the attack in the midfield, and we just have 4 defenders and a goalkeeper sort of battling for their lives. And then Bruno made some subs, which still perplexed me. That obviously the midfield was starting to flag. We've talked Nunez, still finding his feet. Matinho was dead on his feet as well, and we didn't have changes there. And then Bruno decides to bring on Hwang and Podence. Guys, we did have an amnesty at the start of the season, didn't we, Stu? Me, you, and Tom, around Hwang. And we did. To be fair, we've kept it up. We kept it up for a couple of weeks because he didn't look awful. But yeah, less away from Hwang for a second. Overall, those subs, did they inspire much confidence in yourselves?
I mean, Podence doesn't inspire me in any way, in any sense of the word at all, because you know what you're going to get, and especially against a team like that, he's going to be automatically pissed off when he's coming on the pitch. So you know what he's going to do. He's going to run around, moan about things, and get involved in things that don't involve him, and that's not getting involved in the play, which is kind of what happened. When he comes off the bench, he always seems frustrated, which you can understand. But you don't want that in a situation, in a game management situation like we had against that Newcastle side. He just got it absolutely, completely wrong. And the fact that we have 5 subs available, he could have rectified it. He could have hooked one of them and brought someone else on. And he said, yeah, okay, fine, I've got it wrong. Whatever. I know that it's a bad luck doing that. But when you've made such a glaring error, just own it. Just do something else. But Hwang, I mean, we'll get to him in a minute, but yeah. I think it just, again, shows, even though on paper it looks a stronger bench than it did when we had children on there against Leeds, it's not really that great, to be honest. Any of the options off the bench.
I mean, we've had a couple of comments on the old YouTube channel saying, should we have put Adama on? Pricey, how do you sort of sit with that?
I mean, I obviously... in the Fancast WhatsApp group, I've been very vocal about my thoughts on Hwang, and in fact, I've been vocal about it on here as well, on public record, on this Fancast. You all know my thoughts on Hwang, and yes, we will get to him in a minute. But when it comes to subs, I mean, we didn't make our first subs till the 83rd and 84th. I mean, Howard had already tried rectifying the situation for him as much as just after the hour mark, and our subs were effectively just too late again. I mean, we've already talked about the fact that Newcastle ended up on something like 65% possession, so that they were well in control of this game, really, despite what Bruno might say, or anyone else on our side might say about we were in control and should have won the game. The stats don't really bear out that. Just take a look, possession, shots on and off target. We're behind on that. And even then, just after the hour mark, Howe was making steps to change the game in their favour, and we were too late. We only made 3 subs, and they came 83rd, 84th, and 90th minute. We were just too late. too late, and just trying to make any kind of effect into trying to change the game, and that's not something that's new about Bruno. That we've saw this already in him, that he's a bit late making changes, and obviously this season up until now, that's been enforced upon him because he's got infants on the bench and not been able to change anything. But he actually has got options now on the bench. He does actually have some form of options, be it good or bad. He does have something he can change it with. But unfortunately, I think today, just completely far too late and reactionary to what was going on the pitch, unfortunately.
Late making changes is one thing, one error. To then absolutely make the wrong changes is another, is twice as bad in my opinion, because that game was crying out for us to nullify this Newcastle possession. I'm not Traore's biggest fan at all, and I don't think we'd have scored if Traore comes on. But you know what? He presses the team, or he presses the opposition 10 yards because they're terrified of him. And if all he had to do was run up and down the side of the pitch, force them back, whack a ball in that even a 7'7" striker wouldn't be able to head in, absolutely fine, as long as the ball isn't down our end. And what's the counter to that? Bring the shortest player I think we've ever had on. What's the story there? Like, I just don't. We've got tired legs on the pitch, and again, Dendoncker isn't exactly, the sexiest, most skillful footballer in the world. But surely bringing him on earlier just to nullify a warm body that has an engine would have been a better than bringing Hwang on, who is one mistake away from spontaneously combusting. I just don't understand it. Like, it goes from naivety to negligence at the minute, and it's not good enough anymore. And I'm glad that people are starting to ask questions.
I mean, especially after when we talked about that not Derby Preston game from midweek, and how Semedo kind of blooded himself back into match fitness. And like I said on the previous show last week, that Traore actually had a good 25-30 minutes in that game where he wasn't shit. And he actually looked decent again. And I know his body language, apparently, for people who were around that area, he was just standing around and not running up and down the touchline warming up. But if he's not being asked to warm up, then why would he? It's like, okay. But still, you are right. We know that he's not good enough. We know he doesn't do anything. But even me was thinking, just get fucking Traore on. Because everyone is dead. It was... We'll talk about the Castor issue later, but even I was sweating there, just standing there. Nunez was dead, gone. You got Dendoncker, who does a similar kind of job. Bring him on 70 minutes. Just because we spent money on the guy, he doesn't have to play every minute of every game. It's just, you're right, it's negligence. It's stupid and it's negligent.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's just almost that lack of basic footballing awareness. That's what I found sort of so shocking, that either you properly shut up shop, and that means you bring on Dendoncker on in the 65th minute, 70th minute. You take off Nunez, who's flagging at that point, and you just start filling in holes a little bit better, and you've got a warm body in there. Or you go for a more proactive substitution of Traore that will make them think more. Bringing on Podence wouldn't have made those Newcastle defenders think more about what they're having to do. Bringing on Hwang wouldn't have made them have to think more. And, we say, like, this was a game which featured Dan Burn and Matt Targett, and you don't bring on Adama Traore. I find it bonkers that we didn't. But the goal itself, I mean, it's easy to make jokes about in terms of Hwang's assist, to be honest, and it was a wonderful strike, don't get me wrong, but my question to you is, how many rakes do you think Hwang Hee-chan steps on a day?
It depends if he's making biscuits at the same time, because that seems to kind of nullify anything bad he ever does.
We need to have, right, a very serious conversation about Hwang Ki-chan, right? Because, okay, we signed him on loan. He had about, a 6-week purple patch, give or take, right? When he joined, right? After that, right, everyone can all go on like transfermarkt.com and .co.uk and have a look at his stats from last season, right? He literally contributed nothing after like his 6 or so weeks purple patch. And genuinely, right, and I've said this before, both in the Fancast WhatsApp group and on these pods, right, I've never known a footballer like Hwang Ki-chan. I've never known a footballer to have the world's worst first touch than Hwang Ki-chan. I think I could track the ball better than him, genuinely speaking. And I really, and I'm shit at football, but right, I don't like to denigrate one of our own. I really don't. But if I'm putting it very softly, right, it's really hard to make a case for Hwang Ki-chan being like a Premier League footballer, honestly. And this is not reactionary because he basically just gave an assist to Saint Maximin for today. I struggle to see what he offers the team at the moment, other than obviously giving Bruno biscuits every day of the week for training. That seems to be all he offers. But I don't know. I mean, I struggle with him as a footballer just to see what he offers. It's unfortunately for him, unfortunately for Hwang, right? It's unfortunate for him that he's the one that instead of just hoofing it out of play, just clearing your lines and getting rid of the ball, right? He has just hoofed the ball in field, which is probably what you shouldn't be doing, right? So Maximin scored a worldie. If he tried it again now, he probably wouldn't do what he did during the game. But it's just unfortunate for Hwang, the guy who has struggled to meet the standards, right? He's the guy that's just unintentionally gifted Saint Maximin the goal that brings it back to 1-1. But as a bigger picture, right, as a bigger picture, I just really struggle with Hwang. And like I say, despite all I've just said, right, I really struggle. I don't like to denigrate one of our own, really, I don't. But I said the same last season about Trincao, and I was proved right about him. And I'm saying the same again about Hwang now. I really struggle with him. But
I'll tell you what, Price.
I'll throw the floor open to anyone else who can counter my view, but I just really struggle.
Well, I'll tell you what he gives us. He gives us hope that we can win a competition to play for a Premier League team because he looks like a competition winner at times. I hate to say it, like I cannot justify. This is some of the romance that we get from signing players from like other leagues that just don't work in our style or anything else. I don't know. The issue with listen, we as Wolves fans, we need a scapegoat. We always need a scapegoat. Unfortunately, it's him. I don't think there's anything coming back from him now. Once he lost possession a little further up, about a few minutes on from the goal, it was just pure vitriol from the crowd at this point. Like, there's no turning back from that. It doesn't matter if he put in 7 out of 10 performances where he even assists here and there. I just think time's up now. Unfortunately, there's no getting back. The court of public opinion. Sometimes once the court of public opinion is guilty, it's all you're going to do, really. And Stu especially knows I am not a card carrying, paid up member of Conspiracy Club. It's not me. I don't deal in any of that mumbo jumbo. However, I hear people when they talk about, he's only playing to bring in money for the South American market, and I just think to myself, it's absolute drivel, like normally, but I can't not think about it now because there's no reason why this man gets the chances that he does. I just can't see it. I can't. Someone convince me otherwise. I'm not going mad that this isn't just some ploy for money, because there's got to be other people that can do something that he can. Do you know what I mean? Someone talk some sense into me, please.
Well, he can. He's the thing is, I find it really difficult with this because he's clearly in. He probably can barely speak it. We haven't heard anything from him. Like, from the looks of things, he doesn't really speak that English that well. But that doesn't excuse how bad he is. He's I mean, thinking about it, I mean, obviously we've had worse players, but relative to where we are as a Premier League club, of relatively established Premier League club at this point, he has to be one of the worst players we've ever had relative to level at the time. It's not
Absolutely.
even. I mean, you think of some. I mean, Robin van der Laan and Manuel Thetis, all the usual ones, the usual suspects who are coming out in this list. He's up there because he's so shit. And he doesn't do anything at all. He doesn't do anything, and I don't even care about the. He tried to help. It's not his fault. He's so bad. He tried to help out in defence. Fair play. He didn't go hiding. He still after all the shit, he still doesn't hide. Which fair play to him. But the problem is Bruno. Bruno is picking this guy who is way out of his depth because of fucking biscuits. It doesn't make any sense.
But you know what? Like, even when he doesn't start him, right, and brings on for 6 minutes, he still fucks things up. He come on for six minutes, right, and he still managed to fuck things up. And you know what? Just referring to some of the comments, right, and it's a comment I see a lot, to be honest, about whenever any Asian player signs for a Premier League club, it's about shirt sales, right? We've only signed the player because of shirt sales, right? Huang cost us what, 14 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
At £50 a pop, we've got to sell 280,000 shirts, right? to make 14 million back. That ain't happening, right? So we never sign a player just for shirt sales, right? We just don't do that. That's not a ploy way you sign a player, right? But it's just typically his luck, right? In the space of a week, right? Jimenez give him a penalty versus Preston, and he scuffed the shit out of it and missed it. He's come on for 6 minutes today and given Maximan a volley to score today. The bloke's cursed, generally.
I was going to say, what do we think? Go on, what do you think he's going to do against Bournemouth? Are we thinking red card and give away a penalty?
I mean, at this point, the only thing left for him was just get Barry Fry to piss on him, because that's the only way it's going to lift this curse. Because it is farcical how it could happen to him all the time.
Is that a natural lifting of the curse? Barry Fry to piss on you? Is that right?
Well, it worked at the St Andrews pitch, so but that's the only kind of curse lifting thing I can think of in the English football pyramid.
I don't know. I mean,
that might be one for football cliches to pick up.
Whether we use some luck or something, and like, I don't know, it'll just turn suddenly, and he'll bag a brace against Bournemouth or something. I don't know, but I can't see it. I just like I say. I mean, I'll put on record on this podcast about my thoughts on him. I'm not alone with it either. I think we're all kind of on the same wavelength when it comes to Huang, and the fact that what is he actually offering us? Because I don't think any of us four on this pod, any of us on the whole Fancast chat, any of us who listen and watch the Fancast, I'd invite the comments to come in. What does he actually offer the team? Because I don't know. I just think we're all struggling. And I go back to last season when we inexplicably decided to make it permanent halfway through the season. Like, he'd just come back off his injury. He hadn't done anything since his injury. In January, it was like, surprise, we've just spent 14 million on this guy who, scored 4 goals in a few games, has done nothing since, and is offering nothing to the team, but we're now going to commit 14 million to him. I don't know. It just baffles me. Genuinely baffles me.
I mean, when you think that we've spent 30 million English pound on Huang and Catrone in the last 4 years.
I was going to say, and politely throw Fabio Silva into that mix as well. Now, I know you could argue Silva's got potential, there is a lot of money being spent that you could argue isn't getting you the short-term returns. But guys, we're going to take a short break because I think we've talked to death this Newcastle game, and there's a few big conversations I think we need to have right after this short break.
Hi, it's Richard from Wolves Fancast here. Just interrupting today's show before we get back to some questionable opinions and opinionated questions to talk to you a little bit about our sponsors, Pixel Yeti Media. They are a design agency that put you and your business first, from web design, logo and branding design and marketing. If you have any marketing needs, get in touch with them to find out how they can help you get it right. They are over at pixelyetimedia.com. Now let's get back to a show where we can give you some really forced wordplay, niche cultural references, and maybe even a bit of football talk.
Hello everyone and welcome back. Guys, there seems to have been a bit of a sea change up around Wolves the last, not even just today, it feels like this weekend around Bruno Lage. And I know, Matt, you've been chomping at the bit for this conversation for the last 46 minutes, so I'm going to let you lead the conversation on this. Is it time for Bruno to get the boot?
Let's just look first of all at the reasons why up to this point it is being sacrilege to question Bruno. He's not had a full pre-season, was a good one. He's had that now. He's not had the players that he wanted to bring in. He's got that now. And then there's been some key injuries to key players who have come back now. And we've brought in players to positions that we need. Not all, but that we need. And those have all been reasonable things to not put the blame on the manager and to question other people around the club. But when you look at some of the tactical decisions that were made today, and then you think back and look at other ones such as that, and the pressure's on now because he's got his players that he wants, it's making a really difficult case to go forward with the man for the remainder of the season, bearing in mind other teams that you traditionally would expect to really suffer so far this season look like they've upped their gears and are already looking like they're miles ahead of the pace than us. A bad result against Bournemouth, and I mean a bad result, is anything other than a decisive win. And he's got to go, Frankie. I hate to be Bruno out. I really do. I've been a proper defender of him, saying we've been unfairly, he's still like dragging the ghost of Nuno behind him and everything else. But he's creating his own problems now. It's different when there were problems that he's had to deal with, but he's creating these problems himself now. And the tide's turning very, very quickly, far too quickly for my liking, but it's becoming untenable.
Can I just say as well, I won't name the bookmaker because other bookmakers are available, but Bruno Lage is currently 14-1 to be the next manager to leave, if that's where you think it's going. I'm going to shout out a friend of mine, Knocker. He's long since said on another one of my WhatsApp chat groups that Bruno is on far from concrete grounds. Going back into last season, as we called out here, he's been without a win for a long. We had that really bad end to last season where we couldn't buy a win, no matter for all the riches from in any kingdom. We just couldn't buy a win whatsoever. Unfortunately, it's carried on into this season. You have got to wonder at what point the folks and think that this guy can't change games. He's not taking us where we need to. As Matt said, he's got some of his players in that he wants now. There's obviously a couple more that he's thinking of getting in. So the new Meyerhofer might be coming in, and the Mets Traore might be coming in. whether that boy, if he gets these players in, whether he gets a couple of months, to bed these players in. If we're being honest, well, if we're being impartial, let's say, he said right from the off at the summer, he wanted all his players in prior to the pre-season games to get them in. He hasn't had that. The players have come in late. Does he get any mitigation for that? Alternatively, he's got a couple of good players in there that he wants in the style of Collins, Nunes, Guedes, effectively a spine of the team that's come in. That's what he wanted. It's not working at the moment. We're not looking creative at the moment. With our 2 home games, our 2 draws, our 2 away games, 2 defeats. It doesn't scream positive. You got to be honest. So unfortunately, in this cutthroat football world, you do have to start worrying for him in general. You do have to start worrying the fact that, is this the guy that can carry the ship forward? And I don't know. There's quite a few questions there for him at the moment. Unanswered questions as well.
I mean, when you look at, it's not a massive body of work, is it? He's had one job before here, and he left that job because he couldn't arrest a slide. That slide with us happened last season. He couldn't sort it out, and it's continued into this season, but for different reasons. We're not. It's all like Tony Cascarino said something on TalkSport this morning. He said Wolves are the best football side I've ever seen who can't score a goal. But what's the fucking point in that? What is the point? It's all well and good playing tippy-tappy bollocks and, oh yeah, it all looks nice. But if you can't score goals and you don't look like you're going to score goals, then you're going to get relegated. And I know people are going, oh, no. Yeah, I did have money on us going down because I could see it happening. I honestly could see it happening. You look at we got Bournemouth Wednesday. They just got smacked 9-0 and they're like awful. Last time when Bournemouth beat Birmingham 8-0, we then faced Birmingham and drew 0-0 with them. We know what's going to happen Wednesday because it's Wolves. This is what happens. So that then brings us on to Southampton on Saturday. Yeah. After that, we've got Liverpool and Man City. There is a possibility we could be going into the first international break. So what's that? 8 games with 4 points.
Without a win.
Yeah. 4. I mean, if we get a draw against Bournemouth, a draw against Southampton, I got laughed at again and all people putting sides up saying, oh, doom and gloom. But it's not doom and gloom when you can see it with your own eyes that we don't score or don't look like scoring at all. And I'm not going to say Bruno 8, even though we all know who I want here. But if you look at it without mentioning the great man, let's just leave him there for a second. Mr. Dyche, yeah, bad football, yeah, long ball shit. Me and you, Pricey, we hate Eddie Howe with a passion. That's kind of, for me, that is wavering a lot because he's evolved. He's changed. What he was at Bournemouth was a terrible little shit. At Newcastle, he's playing a completely different style. He's getting the best out of his players, playing a different way, and he's playing to the strengths. Sean Dyche came out in an interview in the week. I don't know, it was with Football Daily, I think, talking about, I played with a certain style with Burnley because that's what I had. Obviously, I'd want to play better football if I had better players, but the people at Burnley wanted a bit of grit and whatever. I don't know, I'm not saying necessarily get Sean Dyche in, but just because someone's played a certain way doesn't mean that that's the way they're going to be playing. When we thought we had Bruno Lage 4-4-2 inverted wingers 12 months ago, it didn't happen. It still hasn't happened. So if it carries on like this and we're getting into a fifth of the way through the season when we haven't got a win, or if we've got one win, then you're going to have to start looking around because can this club afford to be relegated? I don't think so.
Can I ask you a question then, Stu? I'd hate to do this to you and make you public enemy number one, or basically take a clip from you and put this on the internet. Do you hope we lose against Bournemouth so he gets the sack?
I don't want him to get the sack though. I don't want Bruno Lage to get sacked.
Zoom in on him as well.
Yeah. I'll get one more. We got to clip this out then. Okay. I do not want Bruno Lage to get sacked. I don't want him to get sacked. I want him to be a success because I like how he speaks. I like the way he does things. But you can't keep playing tippy-tappy football without an end result. The reason we watch football is to be entertained, but to win games. If we get getting entertained and losing every week or drawing and not getting anywhere, then what's the point? I mean, today we were pegged back more than Prince William. It was fucking ridiculous. And why? Look at that midfield that Newcastle had compared to our midfield. There was no reason for it. And if he can't arrest the slide in games and as a season overall, questions have to be asked.
Nicely put. Annoyingly
I mean,
well
like,
put.
you look at him. You look at,
it's so nearly
you look at the
perfect.
midfield. So you look at that midfield, as you say. So we've got Neves, Moutinho, Nunes against Joe Linton, Sean Longstaff, and Joe Willock. I know
Maybe Gabby was right.
No, don't give me any. Please don't give me any credit for that abomination. No, you can't give me any credit for that abomination of a clip. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Aye. It's always good. It's always good to pull it back to reality, isn't it? Sometimes. I mean, I'm very much on the fence about it, and I can't work out if because today felt like a defeat is worse. But I've seen comments going into the game, people saying if we don't get something right here, then it's Bruno out. So this isn't something that's just happened because of today. It does feel like it's had a bit of build up, and we could be going 8 games in with, let's be honest, pessimistically, Stu, it's not 4 points, it's 2 points. You know,
if we lose the next 2 games, he has to be sacked. I mean, that's inconceivable. Even for me being a doom-monger and whatever you want to call me, we cannot lose to fucking Bournemouth and Southampton in the next week. If that happens, is you'll be drawn and clawed. No, that's not happening.
If we lose to Bournemouth, that's a sackable offence instantly. If we lose to Bournemouth, that's instant P45.
Yeah. No, I genuinely agree. And it's a shame. And I think the fact that me and Matt were chatting beforehand, I think the fact that we were already, alluding to, well, who would you have come in, is never a good sign, because it must be so hard to come back from that momentum, because it's gone past addressing a slide and we're in a slump at this point. Like these last 11 games, you say we're without a win. That's a huge amount of games. Imagine if we had that, backloaded it and into the end of the season, which we essentially did. We'd be relegation fodder. We really would, and it's worrying. And I know towards the end of last season, we played some good teams. We played Chelsea. I think we had Man City in that run. We had Liverpool last game of the season, and stuff like that. But momentum builds momentum, and that goes positively and negatively.
But it's happened again though as well. The best performance we've had is again that first half against Spurs, and it's all well and good raising your game when you play one of the big boys. Everyone does that. And remember, if we go back to our end of season review, Rich, when we said would anyone be bothered if Bruno Lage was not here next season, and it was very much a kind of meh before the Wolves TV, before the Ask Wolves stuff came out, and we got his philosophy. Yeah. No one cared. I think that says everything.
I like him, but I don't. Oh, this sounds really bad. I like him, but I don't love him. It feels. What I'm trying to say, it feels very different to how it was with Nuno. And I know, like you still say, all the cult of Nuno and whatever, but I don't think either through times or having those moments and memories. It sounds like I'm talking about a woman now. I've just realised, but we haven't seemed to have forged that same relationship with Bruno, and it feels like the separation, if there were to be one in the coming weeks or months, would feel a little bit more transactional.
It seems like to me like Nuno's the wife you split up with, and Bruno's the girlfriend who isn't quite matching up.
Yeah.
to what he used to get up to.
Well, there's a few things for me at the minute. I'm flabbergasted, one, that Fosun haven't already done something, because we're so led to believe that they're this ruthless conglomerate that are, you know, out to get everybody. And it's all money, money, money. I'm flabbergasted that a player hasn't come out, and because Bruno is the first person, rightly or wrongly, to throw a player under the bus when he
Twice.
doesn't like something that they're doing. Exactly. And I'm flabbergasted that there aren't more people that haven't come out to this point with a serious argument why he should stay. Because at the moment, like, I don't want him to go. I'll put that out as well. Like Stu on record, I don't want him to go, but I'm worried it's getting to the point where it divides a fan base. It divides opinion. I can't remember an atmosphere being this bad at Molineux for ages, and sometimes you've just got to pull that plaster off before, you know what I mean, before it gets too bad. And I'm concerned we're getting to that point now. And you mentioned about him hanging players out to dry. Well, there's only, bringing us back onto topic, what's happened with Boly today as well. Do you know what I mean? That isn't the sign for me of good man management. Okay, so the player, fuck off, Boly now. He doesn't want to play for us. Absolutely fine. Keep your dirty laundry in the basket. Do you know what I mean? Don't. It's not there for everybody to see. Everything's so disruptive at the moment. It feels like, and it's just one more thing, one more negativity around the club, which is just compiling, and it will eventually get too much. I've got to worry.
Yeah, for those, I was going to say, for those who aren't in the loop, basically the Willy Boly news that Bruno largely confirmed in a press conference is that Willy Boly was supposed to be in the squad today, and he, was not on the suspension. Apparently, he just didn't turn up to Molineux. As I think it might have been Dan in our group chat went, don't they all go from the hotel together? So has he has he stayed at the Novotel or the Mount or wherever they stay? Has he just slipped off? But I completely agree. It's similar to the Janky Kirjan Hoover situation, Matt, isn't it? Where he was very open about it, and I think sometimes with Bruno, he's almost too honest with some things. Where you say keep it indoors, because frankly. And hey, we're going to talk about a potential new signing here who refused to play over the weekend. So, stones and glass houses or whatever. It doesn't matter if you think,
Yes, I was going to say the same thing. This works. This sort of thing, right? It works both ways, right? We were the new Meyerhofer that we're signing, right? We were lauding the fact that he doesn't want to play for Stuttgart until he signs for us. And we're saying, yeah, get him in. It's great that he wants to go on strike to play for us. We can't then laud that and then throw stones at Boly because he's doing the same, because he then wants to move. It doesn't work both ways, does it really? Let's look at it honestly. Boly is a guy who, where is he currently in the food chain with us? He's not first choice. He's not second choice. Is he third choice? No. Is that Totti?
Really?
Is he fourth choice? No. Is that Mosquera? I don't know. Fifth choice, potentially. He could be as low as fifth choice, centre half, right? And he's getting a bid in from another team who we don't know has said, you could be your first teamer for us. So he, at his age, and how old's Boly? Is he 30, 31?
Yeah, a bit of that.
Yeah.
Something like that. So he's got an offer where he could potentially be a first teamer, and I don't know whether we rejected the first bid because £1 million. It is a bit low. given he's not that bad. He's not £1 million player. People in like Championship.
Barely probably covered. I was going to say I doubt it covers his contract because I'm assuming Boly's out of contract at the end of this season.
Yeah, he is.
So $1 million wouldn't even cover his wages for this year.
It's low. It's a low ball offer.
Yeah.
But I mean,
the issue isn't. I don't think many people are anti-Boly in this scenario because they understand the politics and everything of football. My issue is going back to the Bruno side, right? So Price, you want to buy a car off me, right? and you want this car, and the car is sentient in order for this story to make sense, and that car wants to be sold to you, and you want it, I want to sell it, absolutely fine. What Bruno essentially is doing is saying, before you buy it, by the way, it's a bit unreliable. It's got some temperamental issues here. It's telling everybody else that actually maybe it's not worth the value that you want to pay for it in the first place. There's an issue here and there. There's a reason why I want to get rid of it in the first place. It'd be like me. It'd be like me selling a car and then advertising on the Facebook Marketplace all of its advisories. You just wouldn't do it, would you? Like, it's just, I don't understand the logic in throwing a player out to dry like this.
I don't know whether he's been forced into this because he would have named a match day squad. He would have submitted that sheet, wouldn't he? He would have submitted that sheet to say this is my match day squad. And then when one of them doesn't turn up, just doesn't turn up at all, and where is he? He's going to be asked questions from the media, isn't he? Someone's going to say, your team sheet, your squad sheet that we've all seen has been submitted. It's got Willy Boly on, and I noticed that he's not even here. So can you tell me about that, please? So he's not going to just offer that up straight away. He's going to have been asked. Someone is going to have asked him that question, which is probably why it's come out. Because that's not something you're going to want to offer up, is it? That's quite embarrassing for him and the club. It's not something that's going to offer up to people straight off the bat.
And again, it could have just been. You're right, and Matt, you're right as well. It's like it could have just been a little white lie saying, he's in the process of a transfer negotiation, and just sort of say it like that. Again, it's the phrasing of it, it's the terminology, it's how blunt it is, and again, it screams disharmony where there might not actually be any. As you say, it's fairly natural. So, remember we had Bakary Sacco way back when. I think, what did he have? 2 protests? I say protests, that's wrong, but he had a couple of occasions where he sat out of games because there was transfer speculation around him.
With Forest?
Personally, I think it's slightly different if you're Personally, I think it's slightly different if you're a 31-year-old centre back with a year left on your contract and you'd be 5th choice to come on, second choice to come on. But it's still the stakes of it. He might not want to pick up injured. So again, it doesn't sit right. It doesn't feed into this narrative of this being a cohesive squad at the moment. When you combine it with some of the extra stuff that's gone on in pre-season, even the last 6 months, it doesn't scream that this is a club where all the players are pointing in the same direction. And whether that's transitional stuff, whether that's managerial, whether it's the players, I don't know. But at the end of the day, the book does stop with the leadership team in that scenario for me. The only other bits I wanted to go on, Stu.
I was just going to say it's a coincidence, but it's not anymore, is it? That Boly is one of the last ones of Nuno's generals, and we had this with Ruddy with a contract offer then taken away a day later. Then you have the whole Cody situation where he's unceremoniously dropped, even though you can argue for the good of the team or whatever, but how it was done very brutally. And then he got this as well. And he does seem like the whole clean sweep that we could have had last year is being done this season, over this pre-season and into the start of this. And he talk them at the same time. And I don't have a problem with airing bad behaviour like the Hoover thing when I said at the time, fuck Hoover. It's been proved since. He's been dropped to their reserves. That's what a kind of amazing person he is. Fuck him, whatever. But doing this, I think Price is right. He's probably like, he has been kind of nailed into a corner with this one because they would have asked him about it. You could say, well, why would he name someone on the team sheet when he's not in the building? Surely if he's not in the building, you would have rang to see where he is. If he's then lied on the phone saying, yeah, I'll be there in 10 minutes or whatever, then fine. But it doesn't seem that way, does it? It seems like, well, he's named him and he just hasn't bothered, which the whole Moira offer 2 not playing for stuff pissed me off as well. The whole thing, I know football's morally bankrupt anyway, but it seems to go against our no dickheads policy, really, doesn't it? So I don't know, a bit uneasy.
Yeah, I think Sasa being on Yeah. I think the one I find most interesting about Sasa name, I won't try and pronounce.
It's Kalinic. It's not
Stuttgart striker. I was gonna say, Stu, you've seen my production today. We're gonna keep it short and simple. But it feels like we're still, the latest I've heard is our bid's been about 15 million, and that's nowhere near Stuttgart's valuation of him. So it'll be interesting to see if we, add on an extra 33% or something like that. I think they're looking for 20 to 25 million. And again, it's either just do it or don't. Like it doesn't make a huge difference at the end of the day for a club like us. And yeah, I guess first and foremost is we've kind of talked about whether we think he's whether the I guess the moral implications of not playing for a club whilst you're on contract. Because I mean, trying to work out, Stu, how would your manager feel if you just didn't rock up for a shift? And I think we all know what the answer would be. But in terms of, I guess, incomings and outgoings, we've got a few days left to a transfer window, of course. Do we actually see any proper movements happening, or do we think we're going to Wolves it up?
I think that I'll tell you what's really balled my piss this weekend. Is the
Tell me.
I'll tell you, Rich. The sheer arrogance that a Klopp or someone else can swoop in and just pluck someone like a Neves out of our squad just because they now need a midfielder that they haven't identified that they needed for however long the transfer window has been open, and then everybody else goes, yeah, I think he's going to go. I think we will sign him, and then Arsenal can bring in Satan swoop in and pluck Neto out as well. I just like the arrogance of some of these big clubs really annoys me. But there's a slight thought in the back of my mind that wouldn't put it past our recruitment team to just go, that's a tasty piece of pie we can make on this player. But it's annoying me that like the whole Liverpool and Arsenal Photoshop brigade that have been out in full force have got to me over the last couple of days. They have triggered me a little bit.
Can I ask a question? Right. If Arsenal or whoever come in with 50, 60 million for Neto, right, would you take that? Serious?
Neto
Yes.
is different to Neves. Neto is a one where you're not going to replace him that window. So you've got to ask yourself, can we do without Pedro Neto for 6 months? And the answer is yes, we probably could get by.
With 2 months of them, 2 months of them not even been playing. Remember, a month and a half.
But we couldn't do without Neves for any length of time. One injury away from disaster if Neves gets injured.
I was gonna say, because like Neto, right, hasn't been the same since his injury, and if someone's going to come in, this is a controversial opinion, so I'm open to challenge on this. But I was having this discussion post match, and you think really, given the money that's on offer, right, is he that value, and is he really? I feel bad for this opening question, but is he as cracked up as we think he is, Neto? Really, is he as world class as we think he is? And is the money on offer like Morgan gives White silly money, and something we should potentially look at?
I said last week that if they offered 40 million, I'd snap their hands off. I couldn't care less if any of them were fucked off. All of them, just sell them all. The only one is
liquidate the club.
Yeah. Neves is the only one. You don't sell Neves, do you? You don't sell Neves. That's silly. We're not going to replace him with a week left. We're not going to replace Neves with a week left. He can't go. It's worth more to us if he wants to run his contract down for the next 2 years and get nothing for him then than sell him for 50, 60, 70, whatever money you want to pluck out the air. Neto, on the other hand, if Arsenal want to give us 40 million for him, yeah, fine, whatever. He doesn't score and he doesn't assist. He's not been the same player since he came back from injury. Cash him while we can.
This is what I was thinking, but I don't know if this is some sort of controversial opinion or not.
It is, but I think it's shared. And, to be fair, I think the Morgan Gibbs White transfers kind of thrown a lot of things into flux around transfer fees around Wolves, just because it was bonkers. But Wolves' price for selling players has now been shown. We sell players for 40 million. So long as we haven't bought them in for, Wolves like to buy players traditionally, and by and large, apart from a couple of marquees, we like to buy players between 15 and 20 million. Our markup fee is 100%. We like to sell them for 40 million, 35 to 40. Boom. That's what we like to do. So
you look at it,
you know what?
Sorry,
Same with Neto. He hasn't reached that. I was going to say that zenith. He hasn't reached that level where you go, crap. The clubs need to pay that extra 20 million for him yet, compared to Neves, who I think last season and going into this season, you see the influence he has in this team, and that's why Neves is worth that bit more.
I mean, you look at it, you compare it to the Jota deal.
Yeah.
What we bought Jota for, what, 15, something like that? Sold him for 45. You'd say Neto was probably round about, I think it was about 13, was it, with Jordao being the rest for him to have someone to play with for a bit. And then we're selling him for 40. The output of Neto since Jota left, well, since he came back from it, since restart, has been minimal. So you're saying people are seriously going to turn down the same money that we got Jota for? No, it's madness. It's people hyping up players because they've got a bit of a trick. Doesn't mean you can have all the tricks in the world. You can go and be a freestyler if that's what you want to do. But if you're not actually doing your job, then fine, cash in, move on, get someone else.
I'm interested to see with Neto, because I disagree with Stu. I think he was really good for at least 6-ish months in the lockdown season.
Yeah.
But he did then start to waver a bit and become a bit more inconsistent. And then of course he got the injury, and his recovery was slow from that. And he played 12, 13 games last season, I think, which was more than I remember him playing. And then of course he's had a full pre-season. He looked sharp in pre-season, but same with basically every other player bar one or two. He's not hit the ground running in terms of that output that's frankly needed. And it kind of loops back. It's not that I disagree. It's not. I don't know. But it's true. You're right. Like, yeah, they can go because they're not actually doing a job at the moment. So either we need to change the manager who's going to fundamentally change some of these players and get them scoring goals, which means rekindling Neto's form in front of goal, which means rekindling Jimenez's form in front of goal, or you sell them and you find players who can do the job better. It's kind of either or at this point, isn't it? But
yeah.
So I can kind of, I wouldn't say, oh yeah, let's sell him. Like, let's change his status on Football Manager to not need a transfer list. Nowhere near that yet. But actually, yeah, if someone's going to give us money and we've spotted somebody else who can fulfill that position, because I think it seems now that Guedes has come in to almost replace that, Trincao / Gibbs White in terms of being that extra attacking option. And I think, from what I've seen over the next 12 months, I think he can get up to where we need him to be. But I don't know, it's tricky. But do we see us signing anyone, guys? I mean, realistically, like first team senior player.
The ones that seem to be irons in the fire that everyone's talking about, Good, Traore, Sasa. If them two come in and we get a traditional donation to grasshoppers in whatever term, I'd kind of begrudgingly accept that, even though we do need a bit more. But that'll cover us till November. That'll cover us till Boxing Day, and that's kind of all you really need. We're not going to get into European competition next season, are we? Not a chance in hell. So I think cementing our kind of place in that 8th to 14th spot where we're going to be kind of living now, I think that's the priority. And I think them two players have got every chance of doing that, looking at the brief bits that I've seen of them. If we don't, then we're in a world of pain because, like Matt said, we're one injury from Neves away from catastrophe, and that's how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, I think the two that have been mentioned seem likely off the Twitter reports. I don't think just a new striker coming in is going to just wave like some sort of magic wand and everything just suddenly clicks into gear. I think there's something fundamental or some undercurrent at play here where the team just isn't clicking as to how we want. On paper, really, you look at the team and you think, well, what really are we missing? Is it a formation? Don't know. Is it a player thing? If we think apart from, yes, we've talked about Neto and he's not at the level he should be, and Jimenez not the player he should be. But if we've got other options there that we can use, having these two new players we talked about will do well for us for squad depth, which is needed. But I'm wondering whether it's the magic wand that people really think it is, and that these two players coming in will suddenly just completely change, revolutionise this team. I'm not sure that's going to be the case, if I'm honest. But yeah, I mean, they need obviously they'll be gratefully received as players and good for squad depth. But I don't know. I'm not sure if they're going to be some sort of elixir that will treat the team and suddenly become to be world beaters.
We'll see. I think it's going to be an interesting couple of days in Wolves Twitter. We had we did our pre-season predictions about when the first Wolves Twitter meltdown would be, and I think we've potentially hit it, but I think we could reach new heights on the 31st if we're not careful. A couple of questions from Twitter comments around. So thank you so much for listening and tuning in, guys. So one we had from Paul Wharton I thought was interesting, which is when a ref sets a precedent with tolerating shoves in a game, should VAR take this into account as being consistent with the ruling of the game before deciding a shove is clear and obvious? So I guess it goes back to a bit the age-old question about, how should referees referee a game in terms of flow and things like that.
Well, I thought that with what we've heard at the start of the season, where the games are meant to flow more anyway, and then when the referee sets an expectation that the game is going to be allowed to be played with a little bit more physicality, you would expect then that the VAR official should take that into consideration. You would expect that because it's only clear and obvious if it's against what the referee is already blowing. Or, if he's run 10 yards and pushed him over, it's a little different to what is a physical battle at which the referee has been happy to give all game, to let run. So I do think that the officials at Stockley Park or wherever it is have got to take this into consideration. But Stu will tell me otherwise because he knows the rules better than I do.
I know what it means, but there is a bit of a difference between a bit of rough and tumble and a clear foul that leads to a goal. So you can't foul someone like that, even if you've had a good physical game, which is much better this season than it was last year. I mean, we all like this way. You can't. That cannot stand in any world. That goal cannot stand from that foul happening. It just can't. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I think that there does have to be not just for that. There does seem to be has to be more of a connection between the ref and VAR anyway. Like you said, why didn't he go over and look at other things? I think the Premier League directives on not letting the ref use the screen properly, like they do in other countries, is a joke. It just is. It's you look at not. I'm not saying other countries have got it nailed, but they let the refs choose. The refs can go and have a look. They don't have to just sell the fact that they're going to have a look because we all know they've even admitted it. that if you go into the monitor, you're selling it to the crowd because the ref's looking at it himself. The decision's already made. We know this is fact. It's in the A-League video with Jerry Gillett. If people want to check it out, it's all there for everyone to see. The system's there. The officials don't work it properly. But in this case, I think it's clutching at straws because it was a clear foul. No question about this one.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. Not that you let a couple of these things slide, but just focus on the important decisions. Let the ball keep moving. But yeah, he did push him in the back. Like it's very difficult to justify it when you can clearly see him put his hand on the back and push forward. And I don't like Ryan Fraser. He is from the Bournemouth Academy of Shits. And a notable diver and will go down easily in those situations. And I think that's what annoys me is he didn't need to make that foul. Neto's a good enough player to have probably robbed the ball off him afterwards. He didn't need to foul him, but here we go. We're going to call full time on today's pod, guys. Thank you so much for listening. As always, big shouts out to Pixel Yeti Media and 90 Min for all your support. Make sure you follow us at Wolves Fancast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, which have lots of stuff happening this week. Of course, we've got the Bournemouth game happening midweek as well. I mean, we've barely even covered that, guys, because I think we're kind of so focused on today. But we'll be back to review that game, of course, and also talk about the deadline day transfers as well. Until next time, though, it's goodbye from Matt.
Peace, everybody. Look after yourselves.
It's goodbye from Pricey.
Keep the faith.
It's goodbye from Stu.
Goodbye, everyone.
And it's goodbye from me. See you next time.